Okay, so today to lead us on that conversation is Rita IDEHAI. Rita IDEHAI is a professional geoscientist, but somehow has become a social innovator, a techie. Don't worry, she'll tell you herself. And she's the founder of EcoBarter, one of Nigeria's leading clean tech company focused on transforming waste into resources. She's also the current president, leading over 250 recycling industry businesses in Nigeria. She's the current Recyclers Association of Nigeria president, the RAN. I'm sure you've heard about RAN. If you haven't, and you've been under a rock, today you've heard about RAN, right? She's the president of RAN. And there's so much to learn and to know about Rita IDEHAI. The lots and loads of achievements, some of which being, one of the 20 winners of the 2022 African Youth Adaptation Challenge. And I'm sure she's going to tell us a bit about, how storytelling has helped her clinch some of all these global, awards. She's everywhere. Today she's in China, tomorrow she's in Germany, the next day she's telling her story, right? So there's no better person to be talking to us today about storytelling. If you want to know more, I'm just here to tell you a bit about her. If you want to know more about Rita, learn about her work and what she does, there's a link right here on our chat. Go to her LinkedIn profile and connect with her. There's so much to learn. And in case you're joining us for the first time on these free webinars, I don't know where you have been. My name is Miriam Lawani. I'm the founder of Green Hill Recycling. I started this about, how many weeks ago now? A couple of weeks ago, as an avenue, a platform to help those who are looking to grow, scale, and build sustainable green businesses by sharing free knowledge that they should be paying for, right? But I graciously have the best people within my network who come here twice every month to share some of these things that would help you. And it's our desire and our hope that whatever it is that you've learned, you actually implement. So again, if you want to learn about me and my work, there's a link there. You can follow us on LinkedIn and learn about us. So without any further ado, it's my singular honor and privilege to have my sister and friend, Rita IDEHAI, on the call. Please, round ovation. You know how we do it here. Let her feel welcome. Let me see your hand. Only one person is clapping. I end this call now. Let us see your hand. Aha, thank you. Energy. Where's the energy? Okay, aha, thank you. Blessing, thank you. Jeremy, thank you. Akim, thank you. Thank you, Rachel, thank you. Let's make our guests feel welcome. So over to you, Rita. Interestingly, a lot of people think that when they have such a beautiful solution, they put in years and years of work into it. They built it. As far as they're concerned, it's a great solution, right? And people acknowledge that it's a great solution. But year in, year out, they're struggling. They can't access funding. They hear about funding. They see people accessing funding. But for some reason, they don't seem to be able to access that funding for these beautiful, brilliant solutions. And they're wondering why. But I have everything. I have my documents. I have my 5-year plan. They've even gone ahead 5 years. I have everything. My solution is fantastic. Everybody that hears about it and sees it in action can tell that it's a beautiful solution. Why am I not accessing this funding? And there are people who don't even do as much as I do. And they're just getting money left, right, and center. Why is that? So today we would let you just talk freely from your heart, right? And share with us, what is the missing link? What are they missing out around storytelling? Why is it that they're not accessing this funding? Perhaps in your experience, you might have spoken to people, you might have coached people, you might have mentored people, how critical is storytelling towards achieving funding. Take it away. Thank you.
Sorry, I was still muted. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much, Miriam, for having me. Thank you to the entire Green team for putting this together, and it's such an honor to be here. So, not to waste too much time, like you said, the biggest challenge is storytelling. So, I think what happens with a lot of innovators and just very doers, right, is that we tend to believe so much in our work and then neglect the storytelling. People say things like, "I'm doing good work," so people would see it. Let the work speak for itself. I hate to break it to you that in this generation of social media and all of the comms tools that we need, whatever it is that you're not telling others, whatever it is that you're not putting online, it's as good as you not doing it. And that's why you would see people that have just an online business, like the business is just online, it's just there registered with the name and they're getting funds. The biggest difference is storytelling. So I tell people that there is, even in a very saturated market. So let's say that you do food, there's a way you can tell your story about food that you would be getting the millions from funders, because truth also is that there is a lot of funds, especially for developing countries such as Nigeria. And whatever solution you are, whatever business you're doing in Nigeria, whatever solution you are providing is essential. So there is always a way where you can, use storytelling to tell your story and to attract funders. So I'm going to give an example. You would think that if you were selling cars, it's just that selling car, there is no social angle to it. Or you only have to be an NGO or, be working in poor communities and stuff like that to be able to get funding or to be able to be noticed. But there is a way you can coin and tell the story about the car. So starting from maybe how you had mobility issues and you couldn't even access basic education because there was no car to take you to where you are. Or let's say, for example, you had a pregnant person and the person couldn't get to the nearest facility because there was no mobility. And then so now you are selling cars, or you are trying to get people to afford cars, or you're providing some financing for people to get cars so that they can be mobile and they can get to their next dream, or they can be mobile and get to the planned future. You would tell the story, and a founder in maybe Nigeria or any other part of the world, so Germany, any country where they are, would be able to connect to the personal story, to the emotional side of the story. So, and it's not a lie, it's you telling your story in the way that people, no matter where they are from, would understand. So it's not about the technical jargons of what you're doing. It's just about the way that your story connects to people. And I think that's the missing link. A number of people just think if you do good work, the work would speak for itself. Sometimes, even when the work speaks for itself, it speaks too late, or it's not loud enough. And in the ocean of all of the other voices, it gets drowned by people that are way more deliberate about storytelling. And so, yes, I think that's the missing link. People not just being bold enough with their story and loud enough with their story.
Fantastic. Thank you. I love that part of, even when you tell the story, sometimes you tell it late or you're not even crafting it correctly, right? Which is, I think, would lead us to the next part of this conversation. I love the example you gave with cars. Who would think that, you can build a story around mobility, right? That can evoke emotions. So you want to be able to evoke emotions, in the hearts of the people that you're connecting, you're trying to connect to. So what are the critical areas or the critical aspects, let's put it like that, of storytelling? What are the things that you shouldn't do without when you're trying to tell your story?
Yeah, so I would start with the don'ts. So the first thing is don't lie. Let's be very, very clear about that. You do not have to lie. And like I said, in my opening remark, there is always a social angle to your story. There's always a personal angle to your story. And when it comes to storytelling also, so you're either speaking from an emotional and personal point, or let's say a personal standpoint, or a more logical standpoint where you're speaking about data. So I'll give an example again using the vehicle or the mobility. So you could have a personal story about it being your mother, your sister, you yourself not having access to, not being mobile and losing out on opportunities. That's a personal story to it. Or it could be a logical story where you just give the data of how many people. So for example, let's say in China or in South Africa or in Kenya, there are maybe 100 cars to 1,000 people. So mobility is easier and cheaper. But in Nigeria, there are 100 cars to 1,000,000 people. So it means that it's more expensive and people spend more than half of their say disposable income on transportation. That's a logical reason. It is not a personal reason. But it also shows that there is a big market for your problem and you're solving a very big problem for people. So that's another angle to it. So those two, so it's either very personal or very logical. But that's one side. The other thing is, so that's like the why of your story. Why, there has to be a why. So it can be personal, it can be logical. what you're doing also has to directly relate to the story that you're telling. So in your storytelling, you have to constantly show like what you're doing and how it's addressing this problem. So it could be from showcasing the users. So for example, you're already in business. It could be let's say in waste management, which is like the space that we're in now. Your solution is maybe you're solving informal, or you're helping informal waste workers get secure income or secure sustainable income. You could always feature your story. If it is that you're reducing climate issues or environmental issues like flooding, you could always like show the story of a community where you did a cleanup and you clean the drainages. So whatever it is, after the why, you have to also be able to show the what's and the how of what you're doing. I think that those two angles are the most important angles when it comes to storytelling. And I think closely related to the what you're doing is also that, like I mentioned, the traction. If you are in business or you have an idea, right? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, you talk about the problem, the why, right? You're talking about the problem. If you're not talking about what you're doing and the impact that you're making, no matter how small it is, then people start to wonder, are you even doing anything, right? So you have to show the results, you have to show the impact. That's why you see organizations do annual reports. Like organizations are very, like global organizations that depend a lot on funding, like external funding, right? Have it as a mandate to always release like an impact report. It's not because they just, yes, of course, it's good to have data so you can plan better for like the next year, but it's also so that the people that believe in them, the people that are funding them, also have like they see a result. So while maybe for purely business people it's return on investment, this one is also very important for even impact funders. Return on investment. It's just that for them the impact, the social impact, the environmental impact, might be more important than the economic impact. So yes, those I think are the very key elements of your storytelling. And I also have to mention that so in between the why, the what, the how, and then the results, you have to be very coherent when you're talking about your story. So it's either even when you're writing. So let's say there is a grant application, you don't want to start your story from the middle. Anybody, and I keep saying this, anybody anywhere should be able to read your story and still understand. And that's why is very important. It has to either be a personal thing or it has to be a logical thing. So it's important. And I'll give an example again. So we're in a competition, right? And of course, I'm in the waste management space. I've been in the space for more than 7 years now. And I think it was just 2 years ago, and somebody started a pitch in the same waste management. In fact, very similar business model. And then the person started with the mosquitoes, like just the picture of mosquito. And then everybody was wondering, what is mosquito doing here? This is not like health or, those kind of things. And then the person said that a friend died like some months ago or something, just used the death of a friend. Everybody was already very, very in a pitiable and, sympathetic way. And then he said that he died due to mosquitoes, and the mosquitoes were there because the drainages close to his house were clogged with plastic wastes. And like, we were competing for the same thing. I found myself clapping, like, okay, this is nice. And every other person in that room, you could see it and tell it on their face that this guy, in the first 30 seconds of his story, had captured their emotions. And for any other person to top that, in fact, it has happened to me where that for you to top this person, you probably have to cry. Or you probably have to lie that your father died or mother died, just stories like that. And so it's important that you're coherent when you're telling your story, but also like you're able to connect with people. So anybody anywhere should be able to understand your story.
Fantastic. Coherence. Anybody anywhere should be able to understand your story. And when we talk about coherence, right, how when you're talking about, preparing for your story, some people assume that, because you know your onions, you have a great solution, you can just say it, right? Anyhow, anywhere, anytime. You're laughing. I'm glad that you're laughing. You know how sometimes you have a word limit, even if you're typing it, sometimes there are word limits, right? So most times, not sometimes, there are word limits to what you can say. So you need to be succinct. You need to be on point and still ensure that you're not losing the core of your conversation or what you're communicating. And then another layer is when you have to physically, like the brilliant example you just gave now, physically be there, right? How important is practice? How important is practice towards storytelling? Please, let our you're laughing.
So unless you've been pitching every day before then, well, in fact, you cannot underestimate the place of practice. because I don't even know how to say it, but practice is very important. It helps to build your confidence also, because you might think that, of course, you know your story, you know what you want to say, but just like you said, the time limit. So we've had cases where they tell you 5 minutes and then they say, oh, there's no time again, and you have just 3 minutes, or they tell you 20 minutes and then you have 5 minutes, and you're just unsure. So you have to constantly practice. And in fact, when I started to learn how to pitch in 2018, in 2017, sorry, what I had learned was, so you have a proper, like, full description of your business, say 20, 30 minutes talk, right? In your head. And then you break it down into 15 minutes. And then you break it down into 10 minutes, into 5 minutes, into 3 minutes, and into, 60 seconds, which is like the elevator pitch. You need to have all of those layers. And honestly, it takes constant practice. And if I, as I am like this, even if I have a pitch competition and I want to win, I have to practice. I think it's not as if you catch me off guard, I still won't be able to deliver. But, practicing gives you confidence. And one thing I also didn't mention about that is very important to storytelling is knowing your audience per time. So it's almost impossible to have like a generic way you tell your story, because the way you tell your story also depends on your audience. Like I said, it's essential that anybody anywhere should be able to understand your story. But when you want to connect and maybe put your best foot forward, when you want to win, you have to also be able to tweak your story to the audience that you're talking to. So I think that's very important. And you cannot be in a situation where you have to tweak your story constantly and not constantly practice. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Like, I like to give examples. So let's say I run Eco Barter and it's a waste management company, but then we want to apply for, say, some funding or just talk to some potential impact partners that deal mostly with education. I've had that happen before. People that were very interested in unskilled, empowering unskilled labor and education. And so we didn't talk anything about plastic. No. All of the conversation was about the impact we're making in the lives of the waste speakers that we work with, how we have like a literacy program and what it has done for them. Somebody that couldn't speak English speaks English. There's no way I can deliver that pitch, even if it is 20, like I wouldn't be able to deliver that pitch without constantly practicing. So just to come back, we cannot underestimate the place of, constant practice. The major thing it does for you is it helps you be coherent, like I said. It also boosts your confidence, because you just never can know. One thing can just set you off. But when you've constantly practiced, when you're sure that, okay, you know what you want to deliver, even if you miss something, like it's very easy for you to just retrace and deliver a perfect speech or a perfect story, tell a perfect story.
Fantastic. Thank you. And by practice, we mean record yourself.
Oh, of course.
Stay in front of the mirror. Record yourself.
Do you even pitch once? Because I think even now, if I want to pitch, I probably still do it. Take 10. Like, you still do up to 10 before you get a perfect one, so you have to keep practicing.
Exactly. Play it back, listen to it. That way it's easier for you to. It will be painful. It will be painful when you listen to yourself. Sometimes like, what? I said this. But it helps you correct. It makes it easier for you to see the areas that you can correct. And see, make no mistake, storytelling right now is the meat of marketing. You cannot do marketing without storytelling. And we're not just here talking about winning grants. Even on social platforms where you project your work. Like she said in her opening remark, you must blow your trumpet. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to let people know the good work that you're doing. We were very terrible at that. A lot of people don't want to invest in marketing. And there's no way you can market effectively without telling great stories. You're not the only one doing, what it is that you're doing. The way God gave you that idea, he gave a billion other people the same idea at the same time, right? So you need to be able to craft. You will see people selling big organizations, right, that have been in existence 50, 70 years. And you're wondering why they're still investing so much in crafting compelling stories. I don't want to do any free brand promotion for anybody. But if I give an idea, if I talk about it, you have an idea, the brand I'm talking about. You see how they relate their product to happiness, sharing happiness. There's always joy. Everybody's always excited when they're consuming their product. The flip side, people would argue that if you consume their products too much, you might end up in a place that is terrible to your life, right? But here they are projecting their product in a way that connects to family, that connects to joy, that connects to happiness. So what we are saying to you today is that even on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, on whatever social platform you're using to project your work, it's not just only when you want to win grants, but even more so important when you want to access funding, you need to be able to capture the emotions of people. Thank you. I hope we are learning. Please let me see emotions. We're talking about emotions now. Let's be seeing the emotions. Please put in the chat box what you have learned so far in the past 20 minutes. I have been taking down notes myself. And please let us know that you're here with us and we're not just spending our time because we're not wasting our time. Spending our time. I don't see anybody saying anything in the chat. Rita, should we end this call? I'm not understanding.
No, that's saying something already.
No, Jeremy, tell us what you are learning. Let us know what it is that you've learned. Thank you. I see the excitement, Jeremy. But please put in the chat box if you've learned anything thus far. Okay, so let's progress. Now, one of the questions, the participant asked was that, must I have an NGO to be able to access grants or funding? Most of us in this part of Africa would usually tilt more towards grants or impact investments, not necessarily equity or debt. So people are asking, do I have to be an NGO? I know you touched on it briefly when you were talking. Do I have to be an NGO to be able to access funding? And a layer of that, do I have to be an NGO to tell emotional stories? So please, let's deal with that question.
I think we've even answered it. So the answer is a very big no. You don't have to be an NGO. In fact, coming back to what you said earlier, when we say storytelling, it's not just to access funds. You need to tell compelling stories to even get customers to you. Because again, you're not the only person providing the service, unless even when you are inventing something new. Before your invention, there was a way people were solving that particular problem. It might not have been the ideal way, but they were solving it a way. So there's always competition, right? So it's telling your story isn't just to access funds, it's also to get customers, it's also to get partners on board. In fact, you need to constantly tell your stories in this world to energize and ginger your staff. That's in the world where there's high retention, high churn rates. You have to be able to constantly tell your story, motivate your staff, share successes and stuff like that. So again, big no, you don't have to be a non-profit. Also coming to funding, you do not have to be a non-profit to access funds. Luckily, you're speaking to somebody that has both a for-profit limited liability company and a non-profit. I will tell you that bulk of the funds that we've gotten we got them for entrepreneurship endeavors. They were funds that were even dedicated to people doing business and making profit. So it meant that if we were a non-profit, we would not have even been able to access 80% of the funding that we got. So funders are also smart now because we know that there is resource constraints across the world. Whatever economic issues, macroeconomic issues we are feeling in Nigeria is across the world. Of course, Nigeria is always a special case, but it's across the world. So funding is also a little bit more strained compared to some years ago. So funders are looking for businesses that when they invest, like they can see, they would ask you what's the return on, say, for example, every dollar. So if they invest $100,000 in you in a year or two, what's the value of impact that you have created? How much would they have gotten or how much would you have done with $1? So it means that a lot of non-profits are not even getting as much funds, except of course, maybe non-profits that also have very deep impact work that they are doing, that it can only be funded by non-profit endeavors, But this is just to say that based on my experience, it is even better for you, easier for you to access some type of funding, right, as a social enterprise. It means that you're doing business, making profits, but you're also making impact. And as we said earlier on, there's almost no business in Nigeria. I don't think there's any business we do in Nigeria that does not have an impact story. We have 80% poverty rate. It means that even if you're employing just 2 staff and you're selling provision, right, you can craft a story around that. You are taking 2 people, those people that you're feeding are probably feeding 5 people in their homes. They're probably the breadwinners, so you are reducing out of the unemployment. That's Miriam, there's a lot of grants for people solving unemployment issues in Nigeria. There is a lot for people, it can even be that you have a provision store and maybe you allow people to pay small. That e-commerce solution is a big thing, it might just throw any business idea at me. Best believe I can tell you a social impact part of it. And it's just to say that you can access funds even as a for-profit. I would even advise you a for-profit because beyond external funding, it means that it can even be sustainable. So let's say for some reason they say no external funding, no grants in Nigeria again. Your business should be able to stand on its own and continue to solve the problem that it is solving. You shouldn't depend on outsiders, financing your solution. So yeah, you should be able to access funding as a business. It doesn't have to be a non-profit. And I think you asked, do you have to be a non-profit to tell impact story? I answered that already. No, even as a business owner, even as 100%, even if before this engagement, before this session, all you were thinking about was how to make money. like your business had no personal story to it, no impact story to it, go the logical route. Go and check what you're doing, the type of problem that you're solving, the number of people that have that problem, and start to, reorient yourself, start to tell your story afresh, in such a way that while you talk about profits, you're also talking about the social or environmental impacts that you're addressing.
Fantastic. You see, I said there's no better person to talk about storytelling. There's no better person, and we're not farmsy here. Fantastic, especially when you do not have an NGO. I love that analogy of, breaking it down to the dollar, because more and more people, Mr. Austin, I see your hand up. Please put your question in the chat. More and more investors, would actually ask you for return on their investment, or even as an NGO for your there's a name it's called your it's not profits now. There's a name, there's
impact figures mostly. So they would ask you for your impact figures.
Yeah, there's another name that it's called, not profit, but I think excess or something, so surplus. Thank you. Right? Fantastic. They would even ask, so even as an NGO, you're not supposed to just get funding and just blow it and there's no impact attached to it, and there's no traction. I love that example. I love the fact that you constantly give examples to make these things relatable. No matter how you've talked about the problem, you also have to talk about the solution, and especially the part around motivating your staff. You have that big vision in your head. It's only in your head. You must be able to communicate it in a way that the people around you who are going to help you implement that vision, no matter how fantastic your vision is, you can't do it yourself. You just don't have the capacity or ability to, except you don't want to grow, right? You will never be able to implement it. So the people that God has put around you to be able to drive that vision, you must be able to bring it out of your head and translate it to them in a way that they can understand it and run with it. And that can only be through storytelling. Fantastic point. I love that point you made, Rita. Even I am learning. So we would pause at this point. We have about 20 minutes to the end of the call. I've been seeing comments. People are dropping gems, but I know there's more, and some people are not commenting. Please, admin, drop the link to the post of this webinar. Let people know what they are missing, on. Please go click on that link and just copy what it is you're learning and paste it there, or add on to what it is that if you've not put it in the chat box here, please click on the link and tell people what it is you're learning, so that next time when we tell them, these are things people pay for, Rita, these are things people pay for.
Right. Yeah, I know.
So when we come out and we say it's a free webinar, people will understand the value that they're getting, even if it's for free. So please click on that link and drop the comments, the things, anything you've learned so far. Please tag Rita, and let people know what it is that you're learning. Okay, so next question. Okay, so Progress Giwa says, as a recycle artist, how can I fit it for opportunities in the recycle space? And what are the available opportunities, ma? Okay, so when you say a recycle artist, I want to believe that you're upcycling waste. So you're using perhaps some of these people that, use difficult to recycle materials to create art, right, Rita?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
So the person is asking where are the available opportunities and how can they position themselves? So let's take that question.
Okay, so off the top of my head now, I would think that art is something that gets people excited and creates more awareness about what could be. When we say waste is not waste until you waste it. So when you show people that, so this material that they've discarded, they're using it to make products, so you're raising awareness, right? So your story could be that Nigeria has, so maybe only 20% of Nigerian households use formal waste management channel. And this is because, and then you found out that most people do not even know the impact of waste. So we think that there are other seemingly more difficult challenges like unemployment, security, and stuff. But with your work, you're increasing the awareness on, poor waste management practice. You're creating maybe wearable arts, or you're creating whatever wall art or whatever type of art, using waste materials. And the whole idea or the goal is to then get more people fascinated about what could be about waste, get more people hoarding their waste and even using their waste to create something else. And so that's one angle. But again, it's for you, I think it's mostly around just creating awareness and letting people see what could happen with waste, right? Of course, as an artist, it means that you use some waste. So even collection is also something that you can craft your story around to say that you collect so number of waste and you turn them into new products. And so that's how to craft a way, one angle to craft your story. The other angle could even be that you're also teaching people how to use their household waste to create very functional arts. It could literally be that angle. And then opportunities in the space, any opportunity that has to do with sensitization and awareness, or has to do with waste collection, or just getting more people involved in the entire circular economy and sustainable waste management space, you could literally key into it. And let me even overstretch, like really overstretch it for you. If there's an opportunity around climate mitigation and climate adaptation, you can actually also apply for it. So let me give an example. Let's say you can tell them, let's say they're looking for solutions in the climate mitigation space. In Nigeria, waste management contributes the third largest to our greenhouse gas emission, because we burn like our waste even in the states or city that has the best, most advanced waste management infrastructure. That's Lagos. Lagos still burns its waste on open dumps, right? So we burn our waste, and that contributes a lot to our greenhouse gas emission. So by actively collecting and transforming waste into art that people love, you are getting more people to understand and keep their waste away from the landfill. And so you are actively reducing the possible greenhouse gas that we would have put out of if we burn waste. That is a way for you to even key into opportunities around climate adaptation, climate mitigation. When it comes to adaptation, you could say that the same story. You're getting people aware and keeping their waste away from our drainage waste. And so if our drainage waste are clean, it means that when heavy rainfall, which is an effect of climate change, comes or happens, which again is almost inevitable, right? The streets are going to be cleaner. And so due to your own solution, and that is climate adaptation. So you can read more around these things, but this is just to say, even as an artist, as far as you're using waste or working around waste, there's an angle towards sustainable waste management, climate adaptation, climate mitigation, education. So like so many things, communication, in fact. So yes, let me know if this answers your question.
Fantastic, thank you. Let me see that person. Progress. You should be clicking on that link right now. With everything she has shared, this is like a whole pitch solution slide that she has just given away for free. So you should be clicking on this link right now and putting what it is you have learned from this webinar. Please, if you don't do that, God will not forgive you. Yes, now. You were recording it. Okay, so chat, tell us what you've learned and click on the link right above your comments and let us know. Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so next question. There was somebody who had their hand up. Austin, I'm yet to see your question in the chat. Please put it there so that we can address it if it's not been addressed already. So what could go wrong, right? So, I mean, we've practiced, we've been able to break our stories into, time slots depending on the occasion. Sometimes you might just meet somebody in an elevator and all you have is 60 seconds to tell your story, right? That's why it's so critical for you to have different time slots. And then there's a time where you are invited on a large stage, like you were a few days ago. I have to rub it in. And you have 20 minutes and you're like, yeah, what am I going to be saying in 20 minutes, right? Exactly. So that's the importance of breaking your story into different time slots, like she said. Now, so you've done all that, you've practiced, you think you're ready. Let me tell you one story. So, is this the right time to say this? A few years ago, I was in a competition. Again, I don't want to do any free PR for anybody, so I won't call the name, right? But I was on a competition that seemed, regular. It was around the waste management space. It was organized by a financial institution. So all of this is giving you hints into it. And there were lots of people that were doing great work, in the space at the time. We were not telling any story. Story was, so already that was intimidating for me. Like, this person is here. This person is here. And I'm here. How did I get, so people that you look up to, how did I get here? What am I doing here? And that in itself was some layer of pressure. And these were entrepreneurs from all sectors. So not even only waste management. One of the biggest brands, I'm sure there's brand in the name of the person's brand. I say it now. They were also on that, pitch competition. So that was really a lot of pressure for me. We went on trusting on God, practicing, doing what little I could, my heart skipping several beats. I'm sure I had several palpitations that day. And lo and behold, I thought that was okay until we went on stage. And then I realized that my entire network of you guys, recyclers. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Recyclers in Nigeria were watching me live. I was sweating under AC. The room was so cold, right? But I was sweating profusely. Not only was I physically in a space with people who I already felt intimidated by, I now realized that there were people that I looked up to in my space that were watching me live. I blanked out. I forgot my entire story. No, it's if you probably Google, you find out this thing I'm saying. No stories. Like I suddenly forgot everything I had planned to say. And that affected me, right? Because I came second place. I should have won that competition. But I knew that was the missing link. I lost. I went blank. It only took somebody in the audience that I knew. I wasn't even sure they were going to be there. I saw the guy smiling. He was exactly like this. He was nodding his head, like, Miriam, I believe in you. Yes, you can do it. Because I just stood there. I didn't know what to do. People were clapping, like trying to cheer me on. I couldn't remember Jack. I just saw that guy's face. He was smiling. You're covering your face. Be there. I saw that guy's face smiling at me as if he and I rehearsed it before. That kind of thing, And that was all I needed to gain my confidence. But imagine he wasn't in that audience. I looked at everybody and every face was unfamiliar. Rita, what can go wrong? That's what I want you to talk about.
There are 1,000,001 things that can go wrong. And that's why constant practice comes into place to boost your confidence, 1,000,001. In fact, maybe not similar to what, because for me, when I'm tense, I tend to go overdrive. In fact, you guys can hear me now and pick what I'm saying. When I'm tense, all of these things I will say in 1 minute, like boom, boom, So like the first speech I ever had to do, I came second also because I even forgot I had the slide. After the first page of saying my name is this and I didn't even remember to say next slide. Like it was just that I just poured everything in my head. So about the case where I forgot to even collect mic, I was that tense. So tension happens, especially when you cannot see a familiar face, and like you said, maybe people that you think are way ahead of you. So I think it's called imposter syndrome, right? And I would say the best way to overcome this, 2 things I do, is to practice as much. Well, maybe I don't practice as much, but you have to practice as much. Don't be like me. The second thing is research, and that research is something I do it every time. So if you're going for a competition, and let's start from even if you're writing, if I see an application, I check already past winners. So it helps you to know what they're interested in, the kind of things they fund. So it tells you how to craft your story. If it's a pitch, like a live pitch competition, I would mostly always, Google the other participants, right? Check them out, check their business out. And that boosts my confidence in a way. So if it's a case where I see a story, and I will tell you, not to mention names, there was a pitch that we won this year, and research was what helped me. So they had made us rehearse and as a group. So I had an hint into what everybody was going to say. Of course, they knew what I was going to say also. We did like 3 rehearsals, like within the space of 3 days. And in fact, there was a case where I think somebody cried because she was solving a story had a personal angle to it. Yeah, I think she cried, right? Or somebody asked her to cry or something like that. So I already knew that this was what was going to work. And just knowing the people that I was up against, because when it comes to pitching competition, storytelling generally shouldn't be a competition. It's you expressing your work and trying to get different categories of people, like you said, funders, staff, customers, partners to connect to it. But when it is on the pitching level, you are in a competition. So any advantage or any information you can get over the other person that helps you to prepare works. So for me, I had known that, this person had a personal angle to it, and this was their angle. This person has a personal. So of course, when I was telling my story, there is when I tell anybody about my story, it's not too personal, but it's very, very logical. So I came from the angle of death. I told you that a colleague had said how mosquito killed his friend. So after that particular pitch, I had to go check and find a way to relate poor waste management to malaria and the number of people that malaria kill every time in Nigeria. Malaria is the highest killer disease in Nigeria. So being able to relate poor waste management to malaria and to death was a saving grace, and I won. Like, it was surprising for me, but surprising for everybody too, because I won. So what can go wrong is you having imposter syndrome when you are not properly prepared, or when you do not even know the people that you're up against. So to avoid that kind of scenario, I personally research everybody. Like, I try, and maybe it has to be, in fact, when I get a call for maybe pitching, like you get to the next stage and they say you have to pitch, best believe I'm going to CC, unless the organization then does a BCC, so where you can't see the other people. But I even go on Google to search. So research is number 1, or practice is number 1, research is number 2. The other thing is also to, like you did, have a familiar face. So I hardly go for a pitch event, especially if it's like in Abuja. Even if it's not in Abuja, when I come to Lagos, you see me go around with a familiar face. It helps. Because that first speech where I told you I didn't even look at my slide. Somebody came up to me, God bless her soul, to say, oh, she noticed that I was fixated on her and she didn't shake, she didn't make any expression not to distract me. And looking back, it was true. I didn't even know her at that then, but she was such a beautiful lady and my face was not on her all through. So that helped me. So having a familiar face to calm you down. So if you have like stage fright, because that's another thing that can happen. You've prepared, but you just have stage fright. It takes a long time to get over that. Having a familiar face, whether in front or at the center, helps. But in all of this, nothing beats preparation, because you can even deliver a perfect speech and then they ask you questions and you go blank because you've spent all of your energy on the pitch, and then questions come and you go blank. So you have to prepare, do your research on who is there, do your research on the judges. In fact, sometimes you see me like posts because I'm trying to understand who they are, what makes them tick, like what's those causes that they care about. So just practice, do your research, go with a familiar face, whatever it is, whatever ritual you need to do to calm you down, you need it. Because like Miriam had said, so many things could go wrong. You could just, in fact, there are cases where your pitch does not even display, and that's a technical error from them. And then they tell you, go on.
Exactly.
From your head. They tell you just go on. Oh, it's your business, so just tell us how it is. Meanwhile, they are judging you. So many things. Technical issues can go wrong. Stage fright, imposter syndrome. It could just all go wrong. They can change like a particular criteria or a particular thing like time midway. They can tell you 10 minutes and then they tell you 2 minutes. So you have to constantly prepare for whatever things.
Thank you so much. Just to add on to what you've said, one way, if you have the time, that is, to, deal with that stage fright, because almost everybody has it really at first few seconds, right? It's for you to just maybe make people laugh, tell a joke.
Oh, yes, I did that.
Just tell a joke that would, let people just calm down, because there's a lot of focus. Everybody's eyes are on you. They want to hear the very next thing you have to say. So when you sort of displace them, when you tell that joke, it sort of, gets them to relax a bit, and then it buys you a little bit more time, a few seconds, to gather your thoughts together. So that always works. Even if the joke is, you guys are tensing me up, all the eyes on me, something just to make them laugh, and they'll be like, okay, because sometimes they forget that we're also humans, right? And I mean, I know that a lot of people would watch this after today, and there might be people on this call. I hope it doesn't offend you, but nothing beats the place of prayers. So in that preparation, physical preparation, and doing everything that you physically, humanly, possibly know how to do, you cannot never take away the place of involving a greater being, that you believe in that matter. It makes all the difference. Even as little as these webinars, the ones we pray about before we start, and the ones we just think that, we know it's now. It's not this person. There's a difference. There's always a difference in the end. So please, let's not take away the place of prayer, even as we are preparing. Oduchinedu, I see your post.
Sorry, there's a popular prayer that I've had since, I think, secondary school, and it's that, God, please hide my wrong points and expose my right points. I don't know where I got that, but I say that. So yes, prayers. And I think you also have to slow down. Whatever it is, try and pace yourself. Like, I speak very fast on a normal day, and then when I'm tensed, and I'm mostly tensed also, I tend to speak really fast. But I've learned that, so just count. In fact, when you say something, you can pause. If you don't want to look at the audience, fine, but just take a deep breath and then you continue. So it also helps to boost your delivery.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're about to wrap up. I'm checking out your name, so, and we're recording this. I go on LinkedIn. I don't see your comments. The next time we are posting it, I'll make sure that you cannot register for it. I didn't say that. It's not on recording. I didn't say it. Okay. So I see your question. This person is a very, very intentional person. Posted the question again, just in case. No, it's not that. It's not directed at you, progress alone. No. It's everybody on this call, because I know even I have benefited from this call. So I know that everyone has gained something. So please put it out there. Let people know. Tell the story. Okay. Is it right? Is right to search out the okay. It is right to search out the consultant handling a grant one has applied for. Follow them and tag them in your post so they know. Oh, okay. So this person is asking, is it right to research about the consultant? Of course it is. She does it. She already said that. That sometimes she even comments and likes their posts just to understand and read about them. That's why you must be active on LinkedIn, right? So that you understand what is it that makes this person tick? What is it that they will most likely align with? Let me tell you something personal before I allow Rita to add on to that question. Whenever I am on a call, whether it's paid or it's free, whenever the panelists or the people who have been invited to speak, whether it's online or physical, immediately I'm getting their names. I am going on my LinkedIn. I am searching them out. I am following their work. If they are able to receive a personal message, if they are not using the premium of LinkedIn, I am sending them a message. I am telling them what I just learned or enjoyed about their conversation, so that it is right on top of their head, right? Again, Rita started by saying, do not lie. You're not lying. You're just letting people want to feel appreciated and, honored or reckoned with. So I am doing that immediately. So even if they don't see it while they're busy on that conversation, as soon as they leave there, they will see it. And immediately they will check. You will see that the person went to check your profile, right? Rita, you will see that the person checked your profile and they want to know, who is this person? Immediately you've registered on their minds. So it's a capital yes to research the people, whether consultants or judges or whoever that is going to preside over your grant. It's not farming. It's not looking for preferred position. It's just the proper thing to do. So, I mean, Rita, you can add to that.
So I think you need to look at it from the angle that people, especially at this level, like startup, people invest in people, right? Even the funding, it is people that give money to people. So at the end of the day, whatever way we want to look at it, even though it's business decisions, but it's just people investing in people. So as much as I probably would not say tag them, but like I said, I would follow. But if you're on LinkedIn, when you even apply for something, best believe they're checking you out too, because they would even need to check you out. This is like in the work that we're in the business that we do, in the social enterprise and sustainable development space, social media is very, very critical, right? So once you even apply for something, they will check you out. And like Miriam said, LinkedIn will tell you who has checked you out. There's no reason why from there you cannot follow them and then start to share. What I mostly would do is then, so let's say, we don't want to mention organizations, but you could literally then maybe do something and tag, hashtag this, hashtag that. I think you can do that. So like tag the name of the organization, not like the individual person on the panel of judges or something, right? So, but I don't see, even if you do that, I don't do it for like tag individuals, but even if you do it, I don't see any problem in it, because again, it's a competition. There are a number of people, a number of solutions that they are going to, amazing solutions, by the way, that they are going to read about. And I think I also wanted to point it out that in this space, I think 10% success rate is good. So don't expect to win all of the pitches or all of the competitions, because you're not the only person that is doing amazingly well. Everybody, a lot of people are doing amazing things, are solving very, very serious and enormous problems. So sometimes even if you don't win the money, it's not because your solution wasn't good. It might just be that that's not their focus at that point, or somebody else has a bigger impact, or somebody else, so many things could have happened why you're not funded. It might not even be that your story wasn't good enough. It just wasn't what they were looking for at that time. So yes, please feel free to get your solution, your story in the faces of all of the people that matter, even if it means that people on the panel of judges.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rita. Just one more question and we'll wrap up. This thing about telling stories, we don't know what we are missing out when we don't. You see, even this particular webinar, I decided to push it out in a different light. Normally I would put the flyer, I would, put the caption that speaks directly to the flyer and all that. But interestingly, something happened last week that was that related to storytelling, an opportunity that I had won. And it just hit me. Why do you have to just put the flyer in people's faces? Connect it. And we had, a good turnout of people register in less than 24 hours for this. They might not be on this call now. We had over 60 people register for this call. And over time, we've realized that sometimes, maybe because they forget or because of the time of the day, they may not join in, but they still go back to watch the replay, right? So it is so critical how you communicate, how it is that you're passing that message. I was able to show people that, I told a story a few years ago. I won an opportunity. Here is a free webinar for us to talk about how to tell better stories. Of course, people are, you see what I mean, So you need to be able to push your message. Thank you. Okay, so finally, somebody asked, When is the appropriate time or stage in your business to seek for funding?
As soon as you have an idea. As soon as you have an idea. But like I said, you shouldn't structure your business or even your thought process in such a way that external funds is the only thing you're looking for. So and this name I have to mention. I know we're not mentioning names, but my first grant, and which was like a major boost for me, came from the Kuneli Foundation. And as at the time when I applied, Eco Bata wasn't even a business, and it was just an idea. I had written like some draft business plan, because in my NYC, like when I had this, they had this program that they did, and I got like a free business planning, session. So I had written my business plan about waste management, and that was like the beginning of it. So I got in with zero like business, and it was just like an idea. So yes, you can start to look for funds, because when you then have these funds also, it gives you the liberty to take some risk, to invest in research and development, to just come up with innovative products, compared to if from the get-go you need to make profit. So sometimes when you have to make profit to survive, right, you might be short-sighted. You might so you do a lot of quick wins, because you then need to maybe pay salaries or do something. So grants give you the liberty to research, to take risks, to try new things, right, without exactly affecting the business. And that's why from the moment that you have an idea, please look for grants. Look for grants to build out your idea. You get grants to even build a prototype or MVP. But if you don't get grants, it doesn't mean that you cannot continue to build your business. And 3 years later, you get even a much bigger one, So like I look at the grant that we got in 2022, and it trumps everything that we're gotten from 2027 to 2021. So it happens like that. But anytime it's good for you to look for grant. And again, when we say funding, also let's just be sure that it doesn't have to be grants. Because yes, I know we in this part of the world love grants a lot, but it can be loans, it can be equity investments, it can even just be loans maybe from the bank where you have to pay interest, or loans from family and friends where you don't even have to pay interest. You need to always look at all of this other external funding, and you need to still tell your story. Like, I don't know for you, but if any friend wants to get money from me, you still have to tell me what you want to do with it, and in a way that I would see that, okay, this makes sense and this is sustainable before I can give you money. So yeah.
Absolutely. Even your family and friends, they must be able to see it. Remember, the vision is inside your own head alone. So you must be able to communicate it in a way that people are willing to invest in that vision. Fantastic. There's a lot that has been said. I think I've responded to the person who wants to know how to join RAN. Please, her link, admin, share her LinkedIn profile again. Please follow her on LinkedIn and send her a personal message. And beyond RAN, there's a lot that you can actually also learn from RITA. So yeah, thank you for that. I still haven't seen the question from Austin. Yes, I guess it's been answered. We need to wrap up now. Is there any question I haven't addressed? No. How do I get funding? Oh, okay. So we've done a previous webinar around funding. Check our LinkedIn, our YouTube channel. If you're on this call and you were the person who asked that question, one of them was from Nigeria, another person was from Uganda. If you're on the call, please check our previous webinars on YouTube, and you will see one where we talked a lot about opportunities to access funding. Okay, so any questions from the group? I don't see any. I'm asking my last set of questions now, so I can allow Rita go and do the beautiful work of the Lord that she was doing before I took her out of her day. Okay, so we've talked about practicing, make your story either logical or personal. I think one thing we didn't mention, ensure that there are too many takeaways. Sometimes you can be telling stories and we're just all over the place. You're talking about this, you're talking about that, you're talking about this, especially when, you just feel like the solution is so great. Auntie, focus on one. What is the major, at the end of the day, which one is the most important one? And that speaks to your audience. Per time, that most important one can change, right? So in the scale of preference for this audience, which is the most important for you to highlight or shine the light on? You don't have to be all over the place, when you're so that's another sin, apart from insufficient preparation. Sin number one, when you don't prepare sufficiently. Also ensure that you don't have too many things, because you're scattering the minds of your audience. They may not even remember anything when there are too many things to talk about, So that's something to just put out there. So finally, I would like you to I mean, as a final wrap-up, Rita, what would you say to our audience? Remember that there are people joining us from across Africa. What are your parting words, around storytelling? What would be the key takeaway? I'm using the words right back at you. What would be the key takeaway, for us to remember today? There's so many things. I mean, an hour, 2 hours is not enough to exhaust everything around storytelling. We expect that this would just spur you, to do some more research for yourself and be able to tell better stories. And when you clinch those opportunities, please don't forget to let us know about it. Okay, so what would be your final words? Thank you.
So I'm not even sure how final words, but some of the things that I'd love for the people listening to take away is that storytelling is very critical in this age, and that was what I started with. Whatever you're not showing people, you're not talking to people about, you're not telling people, you're not doing, right? We've gone past the age and time of my work will do the talking. It might be too late when your work is doing the talking, or it might just not be loud enough. So no one is going to blow your trumpet but you. Blow it in whatever way, whatever formats that you need to blow your trumpet. And like Miriam said, and I'm very happy she brought it up, it's very important to understand who your audience is and know what to tell them per time. I've had competitions or situations where I talk about certain things and then there's somebody on the judge that says, Rita, but you do this. And I'm like, yes, but this is like the spotlight. So it's important to prepare. It's important to research. It's important to, just plan as much as possible. And you need to have a ritual that you do to boost your confidence. So it might be you praying, it might be you looking your best, whatever it is you need to do. Please, your rituals are very important when you want to tell your story or, go for a pitch. So yes, storytelling is essential. It is the life of your business right away. And it doesn't have to be, when you say storytelling, it's not just, to win grants, to win your customers, to win partners, to win your staff over, to ensure that everybody is, on the same page. It's just very, very essential. We cannot overestimate the place of storytelling. So yes, thank you, Miriam, for having me.
And that's a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation. We want to thank every single one who has taken the time out to be here. I mean, there would be no webinar without you, right? We would prepare and get our host, but if you don't show up, we can't have no webinar. So I'm going to ask everyone at this point to please turn on the cameras if you can. So let's take a nice photo.